Hello, I'm Kalia Estep. I'm a senior here studying anthropology and history, and my main role in the lab is adding to the digitalization of projects in the Material History Lab online database. Right now, I am mainly working on just typical images of the faces of the objects. I use this camera right here in this photo box to take objects of the 4 different faces or the bottom or top of the objects, and we take those photos and the annotations and information and post it online for the public to have access to. One of our next steps in the project is also to have 3D images that people can interact with. So that includes using the same photo box and the turntable in here to take tons of pictures, tens, hundreds of the objects, and we plug it into a software that creates a 3D image for people to just move around and interact with, hopefully having different information on there to understand the makeup of the objects. I am currently taking images of tobacco pipes to have a part of a more broader project on tobacco pipes in the like Atlantic trade era. What we kind of learn is just like general like trade relations, and especially with the tobacco pipes, how important tobacco was to the society, what effects it had. Did you know, other I guess actors use this to, you know, affect politics, social life in these areas. And it just, again, just shows the general effect it had on the society there, I guess. I want to help get like general images and understandings out to the general public. I think, like, coming from my own thoughts, I think people should have access to as much information as they can and want to. And I'm hoping to create first a like mapping made from like a GIS software that gives just general rundown of a couple types of pipes, and if they want to know more, that like kind of first like stop, I guess, will lead into a larger database if they want to know more information about the tobacco pipes. It would be a great way to, you know, get the information out to different people that may not know as much about the tobacco pipes and the general history of Western Africa. So.
We are studying how walls in Yoruba cultures in West Africa were used not just as fortifications, but as liminal spaces, places where governance can be enforced and power can be sort of displayed rather than just as defenses for a city. We're looking at a specific city in the Empire of Oyo Ile, and we're looking at the specific city, Old Oyo. And we're basically just using an excavation of that wall. It's a 10-meter excavation, and we're using the evidence that we found from that excavation basically to explain how that wall was used in those sorts of ways.
Yeah, so we used a mix of different evidence from that excavation of this, like you said, 10-meter trench, 20-meter trench in the palace wall, of the palace wall. And so this combined like stratigraphy, evidence of like animal bones and fragments, pottery shards, as well as like primary source materials. So I was primarily working with the primary sources. So that looked like travelers' accounts, missionary diaries, reading through those, and finding mentions of walls and ditches and gates, with a special focus on the palace, because that's what the paper is focusing on. And so what I found is that walls are not solely used for defense. While that was like obviously an important measure and the palace wall was often the last line of defense, it also, we saw how governance was almost negotiated within these demarcated spaces, because we saw who was allowed in, who was kept out, and like what was located around those gates sort of indicated the different like political emphasis and political elements of these walls in Oyo, Old Oyo.
And my main job was looking at the distribution of pottery fragments based on the section of the excavation, and then using that to sort of as evidence for how people were living based on if it's inside or outside of the wall, using that to sort of see what types of activities were happening on either side, and then that evidence can help us to prove that that wall was being used for things other than defense.
So these are the archives of Robert Soper, who was an archaeologist who worked in a similar geographic area as Professor Gunnaron, and so he sent him all of these amazing materials. But unfortunately, he passed away recently, and so he wasn't able to publish the bulk of it. So my job is to do some transcription, sort of organizing, figuring out what we have in this treasure trove, and getting it ready to publish in some way, whether that be like creating a book of his work, giving it to libraries in the US and abroad, and then just making it usable for further research. So for example, right here we have all of his field notes that he organized, that he was working in Old Oyo in the late 70s, and we also have a bunch of photographs that he categorized by year. So what I was doing is sorting all the photographs, digitizing everything, transcribing everything, and then matching the photographs to where they are like relevantly mentioned in the field notes. You'll see images of different trenches that him and his team dug out, and then he also has close-ups of the different like pottery sherds that they uncovered as well. So it's just very, very helpful to sort of conceptualize the actual textual material, to see it visually, and so I think this is going to be really valuable, like for further research, but also like educationally. So a lot to sort through, but it's really exciting and like important archival work.